Hi everyone, my name is Becc Holland. I'm the head of sales development at Chorus.ai. Just bubbling this to the top of your inbox to see if I could get a time with you. Follow-ups. How to not F up your F-ups. Without further ado, let's jump into the content. The first email, full disclosure, if you have not seen personalization at scale, this is a follow-up session to that session. So if you haven't seen that one on how to write an initial email, go ahead and pause for me and go to personalization at scale, where I unpack the infrastructure of how to write a personalized email in a way that hooks your prospect. So within a sequence, I write 4 follow-up emails in total. The first email is the initial email like I unpacked. And without further ado, let's jump into the 4 follow-up emails that I send and how to make your prospect have a great customer experience. So follow-up email number 1. The legend says right here, but if there are 2 stars to the email, that means it's a reply email. So my first email is going to be initial prospecting email that's highly personalized. My first follow-up email is going to be a reply email. I'm going to use, for the context of this email, my friend and BD hero, Josh Braun. So I hope he doesn't mind this too much. So the first follow-up email, I'm going to say, "Hi, Josh," and I'm going to use what's called the Agoji sequence. The Agoji sequence was actually coined by the vendor Outreach, their sales engagement platform, for anyone who hasn't seen them in the market before. But basically the Agoji sequence, they coined the term of how do you combine personalization and use that personalization to fuel throughout the sequence. So I actually a little bit stole that from them. So the first follow-up email I write is I would say, "Hi, Josh," and I would say, "Any thoughts to the email above?" Again, this is going to be a reply email. But then what I added into that Agoji sequence is I always want to be adding value. So I implore anyone who's watching this video, if you're sending any kind of email, any kind of text message, any kind of call to your prospects, that you always want to be seeking to add some piece of value in every single message that you send. So even in this first email where it's an Agoji reply, where I say, "Hi, Josh, any thoughts from the previous email?" I want to give a PS, and I want to give him some kind of value. So people can pick whatever they want. Maybe it's a relevant article to you or some kind of relevant webinar that your prospect might enjoy. So over here at Chorus, we actually attach content like this, like the webinar today. So I would put PS, attached is this content on how to write follow-up emails, and then I would attach the deck. So that is email number 1. Email number 1, just in review, is a reply email to your first personalized email with just the words "any thoughts" and then PS, and attach some kind of content for value. The second follow-up email is going to actually kind of be a blend here. So the second follow-up email is going to be another highly personalized email. So just for a refresher course for people who have seen the personalization at scale video, the 3 pieces to an email. The first piece is going to be a premise. So you'll see here in the premise that I use for Josh, it's going to be a personalized psychographic reason about Josh in specific. So I wrote, "Hi, Josh. Reason for my outreach is I enjoyed your post on selling outcomes over selling the way that you do that, especially the line, 'Don't sell a bike, sell the wind in their face.'" I then transition in the email to "what if you could," and I just left it blank. That's where your value prop would be inserted. And again, I go into that in the personalization at scale video a little bit more. The first line is going to be the longest length. The second line is going to be medium length. And then you're going to finish off with the third line being the shortest of a call to action or a CTA. So the first follow-up email is a reply. The second follow-up email is going to be a fresh, unmulti-threaded email that is highly personalized to some kind of premise that you have, some kind of reason, some kind of article they wrote, some kind of webinar they did, some kind of post on LinkedIn, some kind of content that they engaged with, liked, shared, commented on, self-attributed traits, company line, profile line, headline, a school they went to, etc. It's going to be a personalized email to one thing about them, hooking it to your value prop, and sticking the landing in the third line in the CTA. So that's the second follow-up email, is a fresh thread on personalization. The third email, if those first 3 emails don't work on the prospect and you haven't gotten a reply from them, then the third follow-up email is going to be comprised of 5 different components. So I wrote the concept on here because we didn't have too much room on the board, But the third email, you're going to start with, "Hi, Josh." And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to fall on your sword and you're going to take accountability for your lackluster outreach. Oftentimes in the sales community, or just with people in general, we want to add rapport to someone. We want to build rapport with someone, and how we do it is by talking well of ourselves. I want to challenge everyone watching this today that instead of trying to seek to add value by building rapport by talking well of yourself, seek to add value by adding value, or seek to build rapport by adding value to your end buyer. So in this case scenario, we're going to start with showing a little bit of vulnerability about who we are by taking accountability for our outreach. So I put fall on your sword, but what this would sound like is this. "Hi, Josh. Reason for my outreach is I was reading an article the other day about being relevant to your buyer, and I was convicted about the email that I sent you." So kind of leading with that character of showing the elephant in the room of, "Hey, I wrote you an email that probably didn't resonate with you." And the truth is, we did. If we've gotten to this point in the sequence and they haven't responded to our emails, it's because we probably weren't compelling enough. So in this email, I want you to lead with that and say, "The reason for my outreach is I was convicted about the outreach that I sent you and that it wasn't super relevant to you as a buyer." The second line, I want you to go into an upfront contract. That's what my reps do here. An upfront contract is a Sandler selling term, and it basically outlines the rules of engagement for your buyer. So in this case scenario, the second upfront contract is going to look like this. Again, you just said, "Reason for my outreach is I was convicted about the last email that I sent you, that it wasn't connecting to who you were in terms of buyer persona." The second upfront contract, I would say, "With your permission, I would like another shot to earn some of your time." So you're basically asking your prospect before you go into another personalized pitch, if you have the email permission to go ahead and pitch them again. So in this section of this third follow-up email, I want you to go into another personalized premise. So remember, email 1 was a personalized premise. Follow-up email number 2 is a personalized premise. And then in follow-up email number 3, you're going to have another personalized angle on the back half of this. So if none of these emails on the first 3 have worked, you're going to need to transition to another angle. So again, from the top down, it would look like this. "Hi, Josh. Reason for my outreach is I read this article the other day on being relevant to your buyer, and I was really convicted about the email that I sent you. With your permission, I would like another shot to earn some of your time on your calendar. I saw you wrote this article on LinkedIn about X, Y, and Z, and you're going to do the same infrastructure that you did for the personalized email here. So you're going to have point A is the reason for your outreach of like, what is the article, what is the post, what is the webinar, what is the thing about them that made you think that they might be a prospective buyer? And then piece B is your value prop hooked to piece A. So I want to be careful that we don't bring something up and not relate it to what our product does just for personalization's sake. And then point C, I want you to do a CTA again. So it's basically like, can you give me some time? So fall on your sword, second upfront contract, and then normal personalized email for follow-up email number 3. If those 4 emails don't work, you're going to need to do what's called a breakup email. I've heard a lot about breakup emails, usually very unsuccessful for SDRs in the community. I've seen a myriad of different angles. One angle that I think is really popular is people are reminding their prospects that they've reached out several times. They're saying, I've emailed you 5 or 10 times and I haven't heard a response back from you. That makes their prospect feel guilty. And then they say, I guess you just don't value data, which makes them feel bad about who they are. So that's one angle I've heard. The second angle that I've heard for a breakup email is, my boss was asking me about the account and I just want a response so I can make my boss happy. I'm sure it worked in the beginning. It isn't working anymore because people have read it in the community. And then the third most popular one that I've seen in terms of a breakup email is you give your prospect options. You're like, "Hi, Josh. Reason for my outreach is I just want to close off this account and update my CRM. Either one of these 3 things happened. Either number 1, you're not the right person. Number 2, you don't have the right integration stack. Number 3, you don't value data. Or number 4, now's not the right time." So again, with angle number 2 and 3, it's not that they're necessarily bad angles. It's just they're angles that are disingenuine and they're angles that have been done before. Anything that's been done one time well, usually an article is published about it and then it's deployed multiple times with a bunch of SDRs. So our prospects know these emails very well, unfortunately. Let me tell you a story. I had a couple of onboarding reps 2 weeks ago. They walked into a session and I said, tell me about your breakup emails. They had been account executives for 2 years previously and transitioned over here to Chorus to work as an SDR. And they said, well, the number one angle that I do is I give them options so I can update my CRM. And I said, do you think other people have heard that? And they said, I don't know. And I said, do you think that I have heard that angle before? And they said, looks like from your face. I said, yes. I said, let me guess as to another angle that you've tried. My boss wants an update on the account. They all start laughing in the room because of how many times it's been deployed. So in this last email, we need to be very, very different and very, very integrity driven and lead with new, fresh, innovative tactics of how to get our buyer engaged. So the breakup email that I've put forward to date is this. There are 4 different pieces to a breakup, actually 5, I'm sorry, 5 different pieces to the breakup email. So the first piece that I'm going to do is fall on your sword. So again, I'm going to lead with that kind of humility angle in my email. I'm going to say, hi, Josh. Reason for my outreach is I wanted to check in one last time and just make sure that I haven't overstepped my bounds. So you're checking in with your prospect and you're making sure that you haven't offended them in some way and that you haven't been too much. As an asterisk mark, I've seen this even in outreach and then people still try and pitch. So the angle here is you need to be very genuine with your prospect. And if you promise them that you're going to go away after this email, full disclosure, like spoiler alert, you have to let them go. So I let them go. If I tell someone that I'm going to silence the account for a month and a half, I actually do that so that my prospects don't think this is kind of a long tail vision and kind of a brand awareness thing. But if I tell someone I'm going to do Wednesday at 6, I need to do Wednesday at 6. And if I tell my prospect I'm going to go away, then I need to go away. So the first piece, you're going to say, just wanted to check in one last time to make sure that I didn't overstep my bounds. The second piece is going to be personalization again. So I usually lead with an infrastructure of given your blank, and you can fuel it with whatever you have talked about in these first 4 emails. The initial email, the first follow-up, second follow-up, or third follow-up, you have 3 personalized premises in total. So I would say, given your competition with Lyft, I thought you might like the attached a piece of content on selling against the competition. So you want to give some kind of research and personalization to their company, to some posts that they made, but you basically want to give a personalized reason for why you thought that it was a good idea originally to reach out. The third line, you're going to deploy a tactic called the elephant in the room. So at that point, the elephant in the room is calling out what you think your prospect is thinking so that they think that you understand them. So it sounds something like this in the email. Maybe it's me, but I'm getting the feeling that now is just not the best time to connect. A negative reality, as harsh as it sounds and as harsh as it feels on us as sellers, instead of talking about all of the wonderful reality to you that they would buy your product, I want you to get very, very comfortable with talking about a negative reality for you. It communicates to your end buyer that you don't have any agenda of pushing product on them if it's not a fit, and that you're after their own best good. So how you're deploying that in this email, you would say, maybe it's me, but I'm getting the feeling that now is just not the best time to connect. The fourth part is going to be what's called the hard walkout principle. Deep down in psychology, if you try and walk out the door, people don't like that in the base of them, so they want to stop you. So even when it comes to your prospects, I think that you'll be surprised that they won't want to let you walk out the door even though you're a salesperson and prospecting into them. So how I deploy the hard walkout principle in the last line is, if not, no worries. Perhaps we can connect in the future. Leading with the reality that you're okay if they don't buy your product, or leading with the truth that it's fine if they don't see that there's a fit, is a very, very attractive behavior to humanity in general, but especially to your prospects. So you again want to communicate the vibe that you are just after their own good. You are after uncovering if there's a need, meeting that need with your product if there is a need. But if there's not an immediate need, then you are going to let them go. So the fourth piece, in summary, is a hard walkout principle. You would say, if not, no worries. Perhaps we can connect in the future as a question mark. And I would sign the email. And the fifth piece is I would do a value add. Again, I want to strike the tone that no matter what kind of messaging you're sending to someone, whether it's an email, whether it's a text message, whether that's a courier pigeon that you're sending with a gift, you want to make sure that there's always a value add to your prospect. When we lead with value, our prospects will thank us for it. And they'll thank us for that with results usually. So in summary, this last email will go like this. Hi, Josh. The reason for my outreach is I'm getting the feeling that now is just not the reason for my outreach is I just want to reach out one more time and make sure that I haven't overstepped my bounds. Given your competition with blank, I thought you might enjoy the following content and selling against the competition for personalization. Maybe it's me, but I'm not getting the feeling that now is just not the best time to connect. If not, no worries. Perhaps we can connect in the future. And then I have all the best, Becc, and I attach a piece of content for Josh to look at. So that's it, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.